Breaking news coming out today, November the 25th, 2024, as we are hearing that today, NATO military is warning of a wartime scenario. They are saying to prepare now. They are telling businesses to make your preparations now to cut off China and Russia if you have any connections with them. In addition to that, citizens to prepare now. People, nations, be ready. This coming out from NATO today, as I mentioned, Monday, November the 25th, to prepare for a wartime scenario coming. And yes, they are talking about World War III. We are hearing this all across the headlines. Take a look at the latest news coming out with me. Top NATO military chair warns business leaders to prepare for a wartime scenario. I'm going to be covering all the details for you in today's video. Top NATO military official urges businesses to prepare for wartime scenario. Again, this coming out today, November the 25th. And yes, as I mentioned, World War III. Now, let me know your thoughts. Are we in World War III right now? If you believe we are, put a yes in the comments. If you believe we are not, put no. But take a look. Has World War III begun? Frontline NATO officials believe that it is going to be up to the historians to say whether or not World War III has started right now. As you guys know, we've mentioned it. People have said this before, that in the previous world wars, they decided when it actually started after the war was said and done. They're saying that we might already be in World War III right now. Now, in addition to that, take a look at this. Michael Moore lashes out at Biden today, says that he's leading America into World War III. This is your legacy? This is how you want to go out in a blaze of horror? Moore says about Biden's foreign policy moves. And as I mentioned, the world right now is saying Joe Biden is leading us into World War III. Not just people criticizing him, but all over the world. There are talks about nuclear war, World War III, and Joe Biden being the one that is taking us there. Now, in addition to that, I shared with you that Joe Rogan has ranted against Biden, Zelensky for trying to start World War III, saying they are doing unnecessary escalations right now. And since Joe Biden allowed and approved the use of U.S. long-range missiles to be fired from Ukraine into Russia, which they said crossed a red line, we have heard nations are preparing. Let me know in the comments, are you preparing right now for potential nuclear war, World War III, all-out global conflict? Take a look at this. We're hearing that Sweden's government is issuing out pamphlets for surviving war, and it has a long history of telling them to get ready. They're issuing out new ones, and we're hearing this is not just Sweden, it's also Norway, Finland, Germany, we're hearing, is preparing to launch 800,000 troops that are NATO troops to go to Ukraine to fight against Russia. We are hearing that things are escalating, and they are escalating quickly. And in addition to that, Russia, as I shared with you, is preparing as well. They are building nuclear bomb shelters as we speak that offer protection for 48 hours. You can see this article just coming out 5 days ago at the announcement, and they are moving mobile bomb shelters, nuclear facilities that will protect against nuclear radiation for their citizens. They're preparing these right now. So things are escalating, and a new update coming out from NATO telling businesses and people to prepare now. If you have any business ties or dealings with China, with Russia, if you are susceptible to being sabotaged by them, if you have any imports coming in from them, they're telling all NATO nations right now to prepare. They are warning all of us to get ready because we could be going into a wartime scenario as we speak. And again, this coming out today, November the 25th, 2024. So I've got some video footage that I'm going to be sharing with you as they are going to be talking about the steps we are taking towards a major global escalation. And also, as I mentioned, we're going to be covering the article coming out on NATO's top official issuing out this warning today, November the 25th, 2024. So before we dive in, do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, keeping you up to speed on everything, don't forget to take a quick second, hit the like button for me. Help spread this out further. I would appreciate it. I see we've got 2,339 people on with me live, 413 likes. If we get those up, help spread this out. Also, hit subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? I'll keep you up to speed on everything so you know exactly what is taking place. And as you guys know, I cite all of my sources. They are linked in the description, just like a book report. Try to hold myself accountable to the community. Put them on the screen, read right from them so you can see it and know that it is the latest. And in addition to that, resources. If you are wanting to prepare, stock up and be ready, Additional resources linked down in the description below. I know that the news coming out right now with the global conflicts is not what anybody wants to hear. However, I always say here on the channel, don't be scared, be prepared. We can go ahead and take necessary steps to make sure that us and our families, we can do everything we can to be ready. So let's go ahead and dive into the video footage in the article so that way you can see it for yourself and see the updates coming out as we are hearing that things are escalating. Let's take a look at this headline. It says, expert reveals how Putin could trip us into World War III. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Well, for more on the escalation between Russia and Ukraine, we're joined on set here by the former CENTCOM spokesperson, retired Army Colonel Joe Pacino. Joe, thanks for being here. I suppose you're glad you don't have your old job right now. These are tough times. Let me first let you weigh in on what seems to be clear escalation, whatever you call it.
It's a clear escalation here. I think it was an escalation that was not necessary. This didn't really need to happen. I think providing the ATACMS to Ukraine, allowing Ukraine to fire ATACMS into Russia was not necessary. They've got a few dozen ATACMS. It's really not enough to strengthen their foothold in Kursk. It's really not enough to change the momentum on the battlefield. And I think in this transition period, transition periods are traditionally not a time to make significant changes in these kinds of geopolitical issues. And I think it's a little bit confusing what's happening here, and I think it makes all this a little bit less stable than it was.
Joe Rogan and others have pointed out, but Joe Rogan yesterday was saying that this leads to possibly World War III. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, the great foreign policy advisor Joe Rogan. I think he's right in this sense. I call this a limited global war. What I mean by that is it's limited to one specific part of the earth, it's limited to one region, right? But you've got global coalitions on either side. On the Russia side, you've got Iran, you've got China supporting Russia, you've got North Korea. Now you've got 11,000 North Korean troops in the fight. On the other side, you've got a global coalition around Ukraine, United States, European countries. So you've got a limited global war. Now, you've introduced the ATACMS, right? So you're climbing that escalation ladder. You've introduced this new weapon that Russia is firing. You climb the escalation ladder. I'd be afraid of keep climbing that escalation ladder and you trip into a World War III.
A nuclear one. I mean, that's Putin's point, is saying these are hypersonic ballistic missiles that are nuclear capable. So we'll fire it the first time without the nuke. Maybe the nuke comes next time. Now, he's threatened the nuke thing before, but do you see that as an escalation within itself?
Just the messaging is an escalation, but just think about this. Say that Putin makes good on his threat to fire into the U.S. base in Poland without a nuclear warhead and kills America after it kills American troops. Well, we're in a different place now. We're in a different, now you're really on glide path towards World War III.
A dangerous place.
A dangerous place, yeah.
Let's talk about incoming. President-elect Trump has said multiple times, or David Spun at the White House is reporting, Trump has repeatedly said he can solve this in one day, the war in Ukraine. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that he's always been of the mind that there's a peace deal to be brokered here, that he can bring this down and get both sides to agree to some sort of a compromise. The Trump foreign policy has always really been about the idea that we're no longer going to fund these kinds of wars. We're no longer going to offset or pay out wars for our partners and allies. And so I think, reducing the funding, or developing some kind of a frozen conflict where Russia keeps some of the territory it's claimed, perhaps.
Which Zelensky says he won't do. But perhaps there's a carrot and a stick situation with Zelensky where the United States, proffers them to join NATO. The Washington Post editorial board said that if Trump abandons Ukraine, it will be akin to something like Afghanistan under Biden. What do you make of it?
Those situations are not parallel. That doesn't fully make sense to me. We had American troops in Afghanistan that we withdrew. We had partners
that did risk their lives to support American troops for 20 years. We don't have American troops in Ukraine. We've been funding this war. We've been funding Ukraine now for 33 months. And, with limited gain. Obviously there was a stunning success in the beginning with Ukraine holding the line. And then, the kind of momentum never shifted back to Ukraine after the Russian counteroffensive.
But do you see their point, and it's not just the Washington Post, it's those that have said that, if Trump were to fully abandon Ukraine and quickly, it would make America weaker and embolden dictators like Putin?
It depends on how a peace deal is brokered. It really would depend on what that would look like, what the messaging is, what's provided on both sides. And I really wouldn't want to kind of speculate too much on that. But I'd imagine that if there's a peace deal brokered whereby, both sides come away with some sort of messaging win, some sort of messaging success, that you could really have a kind of messaging win for the United States across the world as well. At a certain point, you're kind of throwing money at this war without much gain. So,
in the last 10 seconds I got, do you have a messaging advice for the incoming Trump administration on how they handle this?
What I would say is that you've got to, there has to be a gain. There has to be a win for Zelensky, some sort of success that Zelensky can point to internally to Ukraine and to the rest of Europe.
Joe Pacino, retired Army Colonel, thank you.
There you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. And he said that we are slowly walking up the ladder of escalation to essentially World War III. He said that Vladimir Putin is going to trip into World War III, that there's not going to be any option. There's going to be no other way out. And we're hearing that it does appear that that is the direction that we are going. So let me go ahead and share with you the latest as the warnings are coming out regarding World War III, a wartime scenario. We're hearing from top military chair warning about business leaders. If you have any businesses in these nations, start making arrangements now, because we are going the direction of global conflict. Take a look at the latest headline with me. This one coming out today from the New York Post, November the 25th, 2024. Top NATO military chair warns business leaders to prepare for the wartime scenario that is going to be coming. And yes, as I mentioned, they are vocalizing very clearly. It is all over the headlines now, World War III. And you heard him say that this actually would be a centralized world war, that there's global nations involved, but they're all pouring in resources and various items and things, equipment, troops into just this one particular region, and it has not spread out at this time. Now, this article says the chair of NATO's military committee warned business leaders to prepare for a wartime scenario and bring their production line back home rather than relying on China or Russia. So again, if you are bringing in imports from these nations, they are saying stop it now to avoid any blackmail or sabotage from unfolding, as former and future U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to restore his America First agenda. Speaking at an event on Monday for the European Policy Center think tank, Dutch Admiral Rob Bauer said instability in the global politics could leave businesses at the mercy of foreign governments, especially if war were to break out at this time. Businesses need to be prepared for a wartime scenario and adjust their production and distribution lines accordingly, Bauer said, because while it may be the military who wins battles, it's the economies that win wars. Now, the NATO military chair said Europe has already gotten a taste of this over the tumultuous Gazprom fuel deal, the terms of which Russian President Vladimir Putin stepped in to change following the European Union backing of Ukraine in 2022. We thought we had a deal with the Gazprom, but we actually had a deal with Mr. Putin, Bauer said. And the same goes for China-owned infrastructure and goods. We actually have a deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The NATO military chief noted that 60% of all of Earth's materials are produced in China, with 90% of the products also processed in China as well. Everything being made in China. They're saying make preparations now if you have dealings with China. The bulk of the ingredients for critical healthcare items, including sedatives, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and low blood pressure medicines, all come from China as well, Bauer said. He warned that it would be naive for business leaders to believe that the Chinese Communist Party would not stoop to targeting foreign businesses in its country to disrupt the economies of potential adversaries. The dire warning comes as Trump has vowed to prioritize an American-first agenda, which could include setting 60% tariffs on most goods imported from China in an effort to protect domestic industries. So again, they are saying now is the time to make preparations. We could be going into a wartime scenario, and businesses, they should take this into consideration along with the citizens of these nations as well. Economists expect the policy to start early next year with 40% tariffs on imports, which would be a significant blow to China. The incoming president also claimed his first call from the Oval Office would be to his Chinese counterpart to demand that he follow through on a $50 billion farming deal. The deal, made during Trump's tariff negotiations in his first term, called on China to purchase $50 billion worth of American agricultural goods, on which he claimed Xi has failed to follow through. Now, experts say that Trump's plan would hinder China's economic plan for 2025 by a whole percentage point, and it remains unclear how Beijing might respond to this request. So, one of the first things he's going to be doing is addressing China, they're saying, as soon as he is in office. During the event Monday, Bauer also called on Trump and European leaders not to end the conflict in Ukraine with a victory for Russia, warning that it would set a dangerous precedent for Moscow and Beijing to do as they please against the West. Now, while on the campaign trail, Trump suggested a diplomatic end to the war that includes Russia being allowed to keep the territory that it has invaded, which would be a significant win for Vladimir Putin. Moscow currently controls about 1/5 of Ukraine now after launching its invasion in February of 2022, including Crimea and the vast majority of the Donbas, the Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson regions. I know I mispronounced those, but they're saying that they have taken over a large portion of the land, and right now Donald Trump is saying to end the war, there would be an agreement that whatever Russia has taken, they can go ahead and have it. And I've heard several experts on this saying that the reason why is because there is no end in sight. There is no way for Ukraine to win. They said there's only two solutions: end it by allowing Russia to take what they have captured, or just continue funding the war endlessly with no end in sight. And Donald Trump is saying that he is choosing to end the war. Here's another article coming out on it, as they are saying top NATO military officials are urging businesses to prepare for the wartime scenario. This is coming out today. A top military official with NATO warned businesses on Monday today to be ready for a wartime scenario, which could entail adjusting production and distribution lines to be less vulnerable to blackmail from Russia and China. And just think, how is this going to be having an impact on the entire world, an impact on our supply chains? If 60% of the world's productions come from China and 90% of the manufacturing processing comes from China, what does this mean for our goods here in the United States as we enter into World War III? It means that nations are probably going to need to start finding suppliers elsewhere, needing to have everything be American-made, or find some other solution, and they're going to need to do so, and fast. Now, let me know your thoughts. Has World War III already started? If you believe so, put yes in the comments. If you think no, put no. But we are hearing that in the past, these world wars have started, and then it wasn't until after they were completed that the historians came back and said when they started. And a lot of people are saying we are already in World War III, that it started when Russia invaded Ukraine back in February of 2022. That World War III has actually been going on now for over 2 years, coming up on 3. And now they are saying that we just might be escalating to the point where other nations are getting pulled in. We're hearing about nuclear weapons, as they shared on that video footage that I played for you. This will not just be a conflict of nations. This will be nuclear war, they are saying. These are the warnings coming out after we saw Ukraine fire those long-range missiles into Russia. Russia responding with that intermediate-range ballistic missile. Now, Ukraine had said that it was an ICBM. Russia confirmed that it was not, but it was a new type of technology that was unstoppable. They said that it moves so fast that it is incapable of stopping this missile. Russia said that if they wanted to strap nuclear warheads to that intermediate range ballistic missile, there would be no way to stop it. It was an unstoppable missile that was launched into Ukraine. They were saying that this was a show of force by Russia at what they are capable of doing. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this article that is going to be discussing this a little bit further. Has World War III begun? Again, let me know your thoughts, yes or no. And while you're dropping those, if you haven't done so yet, don't forget to take a quick second, hit that like button. Frontline NATO officials believe that this is for the historians to say. A senior official from a country on NATO's eastern flank, when asked if a third world war is underway, did not rule out the possibility that we are already in World War III. I believe it's for the historians to say, because as we know, history is never made, but history is always written. Hanno Pevkur, Estonia's Minister of Defense, told National Review on Saturday during an interview on the sidelines of the Halifax International Security Forum. Now, the article says North Korea's deployment of forces to the Russian region of Kursk was a major top of conversation at the forum on Canada's Atlantic coast, which convenes officials from Western democracies every year for publicly broadcast conversations and off-the-record consultations about international threats. The Estonian defense official referred to World War II, observing that neither Hitler nor Stalin said from their respective bunkers that they had started a second world war. They had other intentions, and afterward it was basically named as a second world war. So they're saying we might have already launched into the third world war at this time. Pevkur said that he would let the historians do their work. I cannot change what other people and historians will tell or write afterwards, so I'm trying to concentrate on how to help Ukraine win this war. His comments follow weeks of discussion in Western countries about whether North Korean entry into the conflict indicates that Ukraine is one front in an expanding world war at this time. Now, for the most part, officials, including Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, have acknowledged the increasing global nature of this war, while rebuffing the idea that it is sufficiently large to be called sufficiently large to be called a world war. Last week, though, Ukraine's former top general, Valkyrie Zaluzhny, delivered a considerably less cautious assessment during a function that he attended virtually from London, where he is now Kiev's ambassador. In 2024, we can absolutely believe that a third world war has begun. And I shared this with you when it came out. That former Ukrainian leader, he said that he believed that World War III had already started, that it was already here at this time. He said it was official in their eyes. And that same day, we heard Russian President Vladimir Putin come out and say that the war in Ukraine is now going global. So a lot of nations are starting to acknowledge World War III. The United States, not yet saying it's official, but like we've heard, sometimes it's the historians that will come back later and say that it is official, but many nations now coming out and saying, we are in a global conflict. This is essentially World War III. It is being acknowledged by various different nations. Now, whereas the question might have at one point sounded sensationalist, senior governor and military official at Halifax last weekend seemed unfazed when it came up. We are not in a World War III scenario at this moment, but the war is global. General Onno Eshelsheim, the chief of defense of the Netherlands, said, telling NR that he understands why the question is being posed. It has always been global because the partners were already involved globally, he said, referring to China's delivery of materials to Russia and the involvement of Iran and North Korea prior to Pyongyang's latest troops movement. During a panel at the forum this weekend, Admiral Samuel Paparo, the top U.S. commander in the Indo-Pacific, said that he expects Russia will provide submarine technology to China and both missile and submarine technology to North Korea as well. Paparo also invoked open source reports that North Korea intends to eventually send hundreds of thousands of troops into Ukraine. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement that brings the war to a new level, Pevkur told NR. Though he demurred on the precise number of North Korean troops this will ultimately involve. North Korea will get more information about the missile programs of Russia, and Russia will get not only the manpower but also the equipment, as we see artillery, weapons, ammunitions, in addition to the understanding of how modern warfare works, he said. Unfortunately, it is a bit difficult to understand how we ended up in this situation that in the 21st century, Ukrainians are fighting on Russian soil in Kursk with North Korea. But this is the reality. This brings the war to a new level, he said. And as we heard in that video footage, they're saying that it seems we keep walking up the escalation ladder. The approval of long-range missiles by the United States, and then by the UK. The approval of those anti-personnel landmines by the United States. The launching of the long-range missiles. The ATACMS going in. We're hearing that then Russia responding back with intermediate ballistic missiles, intermediate range ballistic missiles with the capabilities of having nuclear warheads. Things escalating over and over, and we're hearing this could be entering into a global conflict to the point of World War III. Stevie, thank you for the $15 super chat. Hey everyone, let's all donate $1 to Steve if he's doing breaking news. Has blessed you and it is informative. Let's show him our support. It's just $1. You guys are awesome. God bless everyone. Thank you for that gesture, Stevie. I appreciate that a ton. Thank you for your support. Only if people are able to. I never want to ask for funds, but if you can, I appreciate it. Thank you for that kind gesture, though. Really means a lot. And if you haven't done so yet, one thing that I do ask quite a bit is to hit the like button. That is one thing you can do that will just help spread this out further as well. Also, subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. I will keep you guys up to speed on everything. And again, thank you for that. Appreciate that a ton. The super chats do help spread this out as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you guys preparing? Luis Badillo says, this is free news. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, man, for the info. We love you, says Andrew. You are very welcome. I appreciate that. Nah, man, I'm cool. I see enough news. Getting paid from making videos, says Mr. Warzone. Yeah, so as this goes out, whenever there's commercials playing, that's how YouTube pays me. Very transparent about everything. Hitting the like button doesn't pay me, but it does help spread it out so more people can get the updates. Fired Up Freddy says, appreciate you, Steve. Thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. I'll continue to keep you guys up to date on everything. Moon Pie says, are you prepared, Steve? Yes. So all of the items that are linked in the description down below, these are items that I have got myself. I am stocking up and I am preparing as well. Various different things, and these are things that I think that people might find interesting as well. Ron Petrovich, thank you for the $20 super chat. I appreciate that a ton. Truly Fiery says, say me if you want a real supernatural encounter with God. By saying me, it is an act of faith and you will. Thank you for promoting our Lord Jesus Christ, Truly Fiery. I appreciate that a ton. Sandy Scott, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that. You are awesome. Barbara says, everyone please pray, learn about nuclear war. Yes. As a matter of fact, I was doing some research today on nuclear fallout and World War III and what would unfold, and I saw that there's pretty much the entire northern hemisphere of the United States. It's very unlikely that you will survive if you're in the northern hemisphere. There's only a couple of nations, couple of places where they said you likely will be safe. I think it was like Australia, parts of South America, and just basically as close as you can get to Antarctica, they said will likely be the places that are most likely to survive what could unfold. Abdallah, thank you for the $1 super chat. Danny B, thank you for the $10 super chat. Hey Steve, we appreciate everything that you do. I listen only to 2 channels, and you and the Enforcers. Thank you so much for that, Danny B. I appreciate that a ton. And I'm glad to hear that there are other channels giving good news as well. I try to do my best to hold myself accountable to the community, cite all the sources, put it on the screen. So that is awesome. I appreciate that, Danny B, that you put me in the top 2. I will continue to keep you up to date on everything. Hello, Steve from Mayette, says Mariette Ignacio. Thank you so much. You are very welcome for the updates. Prenzy is saying South Africa. Yeah, that's what I've read. Crystal says, can you please give me a quick overview? Just hopping on, Steve. I am a little bit late. Yeah, absolutely. And I see Fired Up Freddy saying, by far the best channel on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate the kind words. So again, if you missed it, we are currently hearing that at this time, today, Monday, November the 25th, 2024, that NATO leaders, there's a top NATO leader chief that has come out and warned for a wartime scenario coming, and they are saying escalating to World War III. They're saying if you are a business, to prepare now. If you have ties to China and Russia, if you have supply chains connected to those countries, now is the time to start making other arrangements, because they said you are susceptible to sabotage and also just getting cut off, because they said 60% of the products produced around the world come from China, and actually 90% of them are processed there. So they're saying now is the time to make arrangements, and also that means the nations and the people of various nations from NATO, we need to start thinking about this as well. If there are companies that do businesses abroad, they need to start thinking about how can they start bringing their products locally or through other nations, because things are about to get shaken up. NATO is saying it is a wartime scenario, is the exact words that they use. You can see the headlines here. Here's another one that came out. And yes, they are saying things are escalating to World War III, as I shared with you. And NATO officials, they're saying they believe it's possible. We are in World War III right now. The previous world wars that unfolded, they didn't say that they were in them until after it was done. But the conflicts became global. And we're also hearing Michael Moore lashing out at Joe Biden for what is going on. Joe Rogan. And in addition to that, around the world, they are saying they're preparing for war. They're handing out pamphlets to their citizens saying it's time to prepare, and Russia is getting those mobile nuclear fallout shelters ready as well. As I've shared with you, they're creating these Russia builds nuclear bomb shelters that offer protection for 48 hours. These are being done in mass production as of 5 days ago. So they are getting ready for all-out war, World War III, and this is a new warning as we're going up the chain of escalation. Bugsy, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thank you for all that you do. You are very welcome, Bugsy. Thank you for that. I will continue to keep you up to date here on the channel. In Your Days says, you missed my super chat, Steve. I apologize for that. In Your Days, I will scroll back here and see, did you have a question for me? If I missed it, I apologize. I see Sandy Scott. I see Ron Petrovich, Promised Land, Stevie. If you sent me a super chat, Aya Abdillah, Danny B. If you sent me one and I missed it, I apologize. But thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Bugsy, I will continue to keep you guys up to date on everything. Danny B says, Steve, have you ever watched The Enforcers? You and them are always spot on. I'm not sure who the Enforcers... It sounds familiar. I don't think I watched them, but I will check them out right after this. Thank you for that, Danny B. I appreciate that a ton. I know that other people have mentioned that there are other channels. I think there's other like prepper channels. I've heard people mention some other ones as well that they say are really good that they like. And some news channels. I always try to stay up to date on the mainstream media and also what's happening on the social media lines, and also foreign news media outlets. A lot of times I find that they report on stuff a whole lot faster than the United States does. So I try to just keep a pulse on everything that's going on, and as soon as I can confirm it, then I report it. There have been times that I've heard things, but I did not report on it because I don't want to present anything that's hearsay unless it's something that is so extreme. I'll just let you know that I don't have full confirmation on this, but this is what we're hearing. But I always want to make sure that I do my due diligence to make sure that when I am reporting something that I'm 99%, almost 100% confident that this is what it is. And I like to do that by having resources, articles, things that are coming out. That way I can share it with you on the screen. So try to do my best to make sure that I keep you guys up to speed on everything. But I appreciate the kind words. I will continue to keep you guys up to date. And if you guys appreciate that, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date. Mindy says you and the family are in my prayers. I appreciate that a ton, and the super chat. Thank you so much. Reason to Believe says sowing into good ground. Thank you, Steve. You are very welcome, and thank you for the $2 super chat, your generosity. Appreciate that a ton. MF says New York Prepper is good. Yes, I've heard of him before. I've checked out a couple of his videos. I think he does like 24/7 streams as well. People have mentioned him to me. Sounds like he's a good resource as well. That is awesome. Well, you guys, that is the latest. As I mentioned, I don't think that this is the end of it at all. It just seems we're walking up the escalation ladder. I will continue to keep you guys up to speed on everything so you know the latest. And like I said, hit the like button, subscribe to stay up to date. These articles are going to be linked in the description below, and I will make sure to provide as many resources as I can so that way you don't have to be scared. You can be prepared. Knowledge is power, but the true power is in the application of the knowledge, knowing something and then being able to prepare or do something about it. So I will keep you guys up to speed every step of the way. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you for the super chats. I see you, the CD75. Appreciate it. God bless you guys. Take care. This is Steve.